Hello, everybody. We are so excited to be here to introduce to you yet another member of the Good Place Collective. I am Sarah Brown, Good Place Collective co-founder, and I'm here with my awesome partner, Lindsay Kuzi. We're so excited to introduce the Good Place Collective to you, the place where we come together to connect, educate, and collaborate.
Yes, Sarah, it's so good to be here. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Lindsay, and with the Good Place Collective, we are all about building a safe community of health and wellness practitioners and their clients by opening avenues for communication, education, and self-advocacy. And today we have such a special guest and a new member, and we are so pleased to have the Kasia Rachfall with us. Kasia, hello, how are you?
I'm so awesome and I'm so happy to be here.
Yay!
Yay, so great. Well, goodness, I could go on to do a well-rounded introduction, but as we had discussed just earlier before hopping on, you wear beautiful, beautiful hats, my friend, and I will just turn the floor over to you. I'm thinking of, when you have somebody that you're discussing your services, what is it that you share with them?
No pressure there. Well, I call myself an energy magician and a healer, and I practice all kinds of really cool modalities that I could talk about for days and days. But really, when someone comes to see me, they have slogged along their journey for a long time. They've tried all the things, they've read all the books, they've done all the courses, and they're just ready to finish healing and step over that bridge into co-creating with the universe. So I'm really passionate about working with mainly entrepreneurs who are spiritually focused, or people who would call themselves creatives, or even coaches or helpers or healers that hold space for others, but don't necessarily have someone to hold space for themselves always. And we know that when we do healing work or when we hold space for others, we have to make sure that we are doing our own work and we have a really clean energy and we can be present with people without our own baggage or our own past or our own, immediate sort of emotions or thoughts getting in the way of that. And so the work that I do in the sessions that I offer and in the Akashic Records readings that I offer is to really help someone clear their own energy. And I call this cleaning up your past, cleaning up your present, and cleaning up your future so that you can be just your best self in the moment. It doesn't matter what your story is. It doesn't matter what kind of baggage you bring. The integrative work that I do between your body, mind, and your soul really helps us to get to the root of wherever you hold stress, get that out of there and get you feeling really confident and trusting yourself and trusting your intuition most of all, because we all know that our answers don't lie outside of ourselves. We are often taught that they do, but they don't. They are inside of us. And when we can trust that we can not only find them, but also, I guess, connect with them and really rely on them, that's when I think we are our best selves.
Oh my goodness. That just gave me all the goosebumps, Kasia. I'm like, yes, tell me more. Yes.
Kasia,
yes.
can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
How do you, and this might be a harder question to answer, but, I hear you say I help, helping people to, well, you didn't say helping people, but you're talking about trusting your intuition. And my immediate thought, which might just be my own negative thought, was like, oh man, easier said than done. So how do you, what tools, how are you helping people to do that? Because, we can say oh, you just need to trust your intuition. Mm-hmm. We all know, I'm sure, including yourself, how challenging that can be. So for the person that might also be listening and thinking that same thing, oh, easier said than done, what would you say to that person?
I love that question, Sarah. And the answer has a couple different parts. One of the really important ones is really dealing with our own past and our own belief systems and our own ways of thinking. And I do that through both speaking with someone and using tools such as NLP and other things, but also clearing out the body, because our body often holds a lot of our old stories in the tissues. And you don't have to understand the science behind it, just knowing that that's true, right? Sometimes you might find yourself having done all kinds of emotional work and all kinds of healing, and then you find yourself in a situation and your body's responding in some old way, and you're like, what is happening?
Right.
So that's why I take such an integrative approach where we bring the body into the conversation and we clear out our tissues along with our emotions. And and then our mental patterns. So that would be the one way, is taking that integrative approach so that our system is clear, our nervous system is regulated, and we have the physical, mental, and emotional capacity to hear ourselves, to be able to sit still with ourselves and tune into that voice of our highest self. So the way that I do that part, which is the other part of this answer, is I teach people how to read their own Akashic records. The Akashic records are a field of information that holds the guidance, history, wisdom, and potential of our soul. And I teach one way that you can access them consistently, and you get in every time, so that you know when you're in there, when you're communicating with this field of information, you know who you're talking to. You know this is the voice of your soul. You don't have to worry if you're making it up or if you're tapped into some frequency of, some entity out there. It's consistent and it works every time. So both those two things, where you have a clear system to receive information, and then you have a way to access that information consistently every time, I find makes a really good combination for someone to increase their trust in themselves in a really practical, grounded way. I'm a Capricorn, so all the spiritual and cool stuff that I know has to be practical. There has to be a way to make it work for you. Otherwise, what's the point? Otherwise, it's just really fun stuff that we know. So.
Totally. A fellow Capricorn over here, so I can totally relate.
Yeah.
Well, I love it, just hearing you talk about it. It's like it is simple, and there is a system, and it needs to make sense. And I love how consistent it is. And for me, that's great, because if I were to, share with another person who's maybe received your services, there's no discrepancy, definitely a part of the same group, the same collective, and being able to share that knowledge together. And just hearing you say that, Kasia, leads me to believe that it's a beautiful community that you're also creating of empowered individuals that can just really get better control of, who they are, what they're doing, that little voice inside, and play big, right? And not being scared of that. And I just, it sounds so incredible and so beautiful. And I feel like it has a softness about it also, where you're there with them every step of the way. And it feels like you really, talk the talk and you're walking your walk. And that's just so empowering in itself to observe and to hear. Thank you so much for sharing it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to share as well, because I have worked with you a little bit, Kasia, and you are someone that I think actually does perfectly marry those two pieces, that you're very spiritual and energetic, and you grounded in this very earthy, realistic way that is really helpful for someone like me, because to go too into kind of like the spiritual and it's airy and fluffy, you kind of lose me, and that's just me. And I know there are obviously people out there. Tell us a little bit about the type of client you're looking for in terms of what they might be dealing with that you can help them with. So what kind of issues are you finding that clients are having that prompt them to make an appointment with you?
Sure, that's a great question. I think what it really boils down to for my clients is they've discovered that they've given their power away most of their lives, whether personally or professionally, emotionally, and they're ready to take it back, but they're not sure how. It's like they've done all this work, and yet they still feel like there's something missing. A lot of the time, they'll find like they feel like they don't have a purpose, or they keep seeking for something, this elusive unicorn of an idea of, why am I here? What am I here to do? And part of my work, especially with working with that Akashic Records field of information, which is like the library of the soul, let's call it, we can go in there and we can gather some details about who you're here to serve, or what are your purposes, because we have more than one. A lot of my clients have that question foremost in their mind, like, what's my purpose? And when we start to work together and we start to connect them to not only information about why they're here on earth or what their life has meant, but we also look at some of their experiences from their past, and we start to build out the map of who they are, where they've been, what they've done. They actually start to realize, oh my gosh, everything in my life has made me who I am and has led me to this very moment. And I'm actually enough. I'm enough. I'm whole. I'm worthy. I'm this divine being. And I can just give myself permission to just like do the things I do. There is no more. You can always grow and you can always expand and take a direction that you've never taken or learn something new. But fundamentally, you reconnect to and you remember that you are enough. And so that puts the power right back into your hands, I guess, into your mind, into your emotional capacity. And so then making decisions is a lot easier, right? Whether that's relationship wise or at work. When you're a spiritual entrepreneur or creative person with a spiritual focus, you'll find that it's really hard to separate work, business, personal life. Like, it doesn't mean you have to be best friends with all your clients or whatever, but you know that you're one whole being. And so whatever you do in your work will then trickle into your personal life and vice versa. And so taking that holistic approach of gathering all the pieces of yourself, giving yourself permission to be you, will help you show up better, more confidently, with more trust in both places. So I don't know, does that answer that question? Did I just ramble?
No, it does. You didn't ramble at all. No, it totally answered the question so beautifully. And I can relate to that as well, because I'm the type of person that has definitely had that tendency to kind of want to separate my life in that way for whatever reason. And it's helpful for me to hear that also, because I think a lot of people, we kind of do that. We think like, oh, we should have our, work box and our personal box and our social box, and it should all be separate. And then it's got me thinking now, like, how true can one be to their self and their purpose when they're kind of creating that, separation all the time? And like you say, it's probably a fine line, but yeah, no, it definitely answered the question. Thank you so much.
I so appreciate all that you shared, Kasia. And I love listening to you just speak. Like, you're so inspiring. You're so grounded. There's so much truth in your words. And I'm really enjoying our time together. Like, honestly, heart forward. And I really appreciate what you just shared too. And for myself, I noticed a big shift for myself and in my business when I decided that Lindsay Kuzi as I am is how I'm going to show up in every aspect of my life. And yes, it does blur the lines and it melts things together, but I have found myself to be more successful. I found myself to be just genuinely happier, right? Like, there's this lightness about it, because I don't have to kind of check myself as to where I am or who I'm speaking with. And there's a lot of freedom that comes with that. So I really appreciate you sharing that, because it really changed my professional life. And I think it's something that really, needs to be talked about, and, to show that there is an answer, that we don't have to segregate all these different parts and pieces of ourselves, or if we do, we can do it intentionally and with love. And I just think that's so beautiful. And I just really like to thank our viewers for watching. Kasia, thank you so much for joining us. It's been delightful to chat with you. And certainly for somebody who's viewing this, go to our website, goodplacecollective.com. You want to be checking out the practitioner list. That is where you will find Kasia. And you can reach out to her if you have any questions, if you want to start a conversation. Kasia has different sessions and programs available. She would love to chat with you and start that conversation. So thank you so much for viewing. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.